Right, I'm Lindsay Labonte, branch manager here at our Applied Mortgage team of HomeRUN Mortgage, and I'm joined, as I often am, by my colleague, Bob Petrelli. How's it going, Bob?
Just wonderful, Lindsay. How are you?
Just wonderful. We were just talking about our kids finishing up their school years, so whole different change to the schedule and everything. Nonetheless, real estate goes on. So today we're going to have another follow-up conversation on a program we have been talking about, which is our Home Run cash offer program. And I hate the name Home Run because it's so cheesy, but we are part of HarborOne Mortgage, and so home was the marketing term. So thanks to our marketing people who make me use baseball analogies all the time now. So our Home Run cash offer program, we've had some great success with so far. And Bobby, you want to just tell me about a couple scenarios that you've been a part of where this has really made the difference and gotten your customers the winning offer?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, my first one was awesome because it's first time buyer, they're super cautious. So we had talked about it, when we first spoke back in like November of last year. And they weren't ready, for it yet because, it's something different and they're new to the process. But, they kept making offers and getting it rejected, and like a lot of like first time buyers that they get used to the market and the competitiveness of it, and they get more comfortable. And eventually they were like, listen, like we want to go through that program. So we fully underwrit that, and they made their first offer with the program, and they weren't even the highest bidder, and because of it their offer was accepted. So it was amazing, for them, in that regard, because, it's just the power of the program. And they were only a 5% down buyer. So it's not like this person with this huge down payment. And, it was great. I've since had other ones accepted. Some were first time buyers, but some were not. And my most recent one was somebody that was getting very frustrated in a highly competitive Scituate market. You're seeing 15 to 20 offers at a minimum on these houses. And, we, use the program for this, and their offer was just accepted on Sunday, actually.
Awesome.
And so
Yeah, and that
very
sounds cool
happy.
too. I mean, we've got our team. So if you know me as Applied Mortgage, that's here in Western Mass. HarborOne Mortgage lends in the majority of New England and even some southern states. Bobby, who's a part of my team, is out in Eastern Mass. So what's been really cool is, well, cool and not cool, we're seeing how competitive the market is, kind of regardless of where you're trying to buy, right? And the price range. It's like whether you're a first-time home buyer, repeat buyer, you've got 3% down or 40% down, depending on the price range you're in, you're experiencing that competitive situation. And so this service has come about, this cashback program, because of the competitive situation. When I talk to buyers, a lot of whom maybe have talked to their parents who have bought houses, or grandparents who have bought houses, or even friends that bought houses 5 or 10 years ago, it was not as competitive as it is right now. So there's that, what Bobby was talking about, that learning curve where buyers might go out and look at a few houses, get their feet wet, make a couple offers, and then they're like, oh, right, it is as competitive as you said. So what we do and is just work to educate people, right? So that they're going to go and get their own experience, but then they can come back when they're ready and talk more about this potential program, or they can do it right off the bat, right? If they believe all the professionals that are saying, hey, it's competitive. So let's talk a little bit of logistics, and I don't want to bore people with too much logistics because like we can have one-on-one conversations about that, but just sort of the high level overview. So somebody calls, they want to buy a house, they hear about our cash offer program. What do they do next, Bob?
Yeah, well, this is perfect because I had somebody call me today that's been looking and getting beat out by cash offers. And they're like, I heard you have this program. So what's it all about? So what I told them was, listen, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to treat you like it's a real loan, and we're going to fully underwrite you to make sure that you're a really strong buyer. Because from our perspective, we're only using this service on really strong buyers because we don't want to be buying houses. Plain and simple.
Right.
We don't want to be buying and selling houses. So we make sure of that. And then what happens once we fully underwrite you, which means it goes to the underwriter that's going to be making your real loan decision, and we check everything out with you from your credit, your assets, and your income, and we handle any conditions related to that stuff if there are any, then what we'll do is we'll register you for this program, which takes literally 2 minutes. And then when you go to make an offer, you're going to tell us, okay, I'm going to make an offer on this property. I'm going to offer this amount of money and we're going to put this down payment. And we fill it out in our system and it runs it through an automated valuation system just to make sure of the value of the property. So we're going to, assuming that comes back and we're good with it, then we're going to email you and your realtor an addendum to that you include to your offer form. And what that addendum is going to tell the seller is say, yes, we're getting a mortgage. However, this bank is guaranteeing our purchase with cash, which means that if something unforeseen happened to that buyer that we've already underwritten, which really would mean like an unexpected job loss or something like that, we would still go ahead and complete that transaction. Now, in a lot of cases, we might still need an appraisal, to be done on the house. And that's okay. That letter tells the listing agent that the value of whatever that appraisal is irrelevant to your side of the transaction. And regardless of what it comes back at, this will be completed either by us buying the property or the buyer completing their mortgage. So it can be really powerful. The only thing, is really from the appraisal standpoint is this has to be used not only on good buyers, but good properties. So it's not for fixer uppers. Like it needs to be a solid property. So we're going to, ask them about that stuff in advance because it needs to be in at least good enough conditions to complete a conventional loan on it, because that's the ultimate goal of it. So
makes sense. Right. So, and that was going to be my next question. Like, what's the catch?
Yeah. I mean, other than condition of the property, which, we're not talking like it has to be completely updated or anything like that. It just needs to be, a solid property, without
something that's not going to get inspection,
get
repairs,
flagged. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Other than that, there's really no catch. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, we want people to win their offers. That's how we, make money. There is a cost to the program, but only if you use it to have your offer accepted. So going through the full underwrite, no money. Registering for the program, no money. Running a loan through an AVM to make sure that the value comes back where you want it to be, no money. The only time that there's money,
get you a shirt that says no money.
No money, yeah.
No money, no problem. That's a problem in real estate right now.
Yeah, no money. The only time there's a cost is if you actually close the loan and we've signed as a third party to that transaction guaranteeing it. And that's $499 due at closing.
Okay.
So
same loan terms. If you use the program, the only real monetary catch is the $499. Right. Assuming you go through the process and you actually end up buying the house. And so as far as the risk goes, to us as the lender, obviously we're mitigating the risk, and to you as the buyer, by completing our fully underwritten pre-approval. So we're basically doing all the due diligence that usually happens after you find a house. We're doing it before you find the house. And that gives you a leg up on the competition anyway, right? You've got a fully underwritten pre-approval to use. Then from there, you get to choose, do you want to use this cash offer service? If you do, we run it through and we mitigate the risk of the property by making sure it's livable. It's not going to have repair condition items. And we run it through the AVM system. And then from there, you're able to go ahead and make your offer. Pretty cool. Time though, what about the timing of everything?
Yeah. So for the fully underwritten pre-approval part, it's don't call us on Friday morning saying you want to make an offer, this weekend.
Yeah. Because I wish you could, but you can't.
I know, but you can't. Right.
Because our underwriters have to do their thing. It takes a few days.
Yeah. And we need to get stuff back from you and all that stuff. So time, I guess it depends upon how complicated you are. if you're a standard W-2, salaried employee with easy bank statements and stuff like that, I mean, we take the application, Monday, we should be able to probably have everything done for you by that Friday. If you're somebody that we need to get written verification of employment because of overtime and all this other stuff, like, then sure, it's possible it takes longer. And since that's third party stuff, like, that's out of our control, not exactly sure. So what we always tell people is this is a tool in your toolbox. So let's start the process and get that tool sharpened. And if it sharpens really quickly, great, you can start using it right away. If it takes a little bit longer, then you can still be doing what you're doing currently as far as making your regular offers. So it doesn't change anything by it if it does take a little bit longer. But then once it's ready, then you can use it.
Yeah. Awesome. Very cool. So it gives people that competitive advantage where at least, no, you're not a full cash offer, but you do have this cash backed offer, which is basically the second best thing. Only being because if you have literally just cash, oftentimes those buyers are just going to waive all the contingencies, right? Like, why does this matter? It comes down to how many strings are attached for the sellers. So talk to me about those contingencies. Like, what can buyers potentially do? With a disclaimer that we're not an attorney, we're not a realtor, we're not telling you how to write up your contract, but these are just some ideas.
Sure. So they can do anything they're comfortable doing, I guess, is the main thing. But there's no requirements that you do anything as part of this, right? But to make it more powerful, you should waive. I don't want to use the word should, but the most powerful way to do it is to have no mortgage contingency clause, which by us doing the fully underwritten pre-approval, hopefully your comfort level is that we've already taken care of that piece anyways. You should, I mean, there's not going to be an appraised value clause because we've taken care of that, with the cash backed offer. You as the buyer, even if we've screwed up the valuation, are not going to have to put more money into the transaction than what we'll tell you up front. So a low appraisal doesn't affect that or the closing. So, and then there's your home inspection, right? So, I mean, I never recommend people waive a home inspection, but you're going to run into offers that are going to waive their home inspection. So you got to weigh those risks on your own. So.
Awesome. So I think one of the biggest questions we get too is about the valuation that's run on the property. So what I found depending on where the property is located, and I always say this to buyers and realtors that they're working with beforehand, when we run that valuation through, it's an automated system, just like any other algorithm, right? It's not going to be as accurate as somebody actually going to the property and doing an appraisal. So when you decide you want to make an offer on a house, and if you want to use the cash offer service, we do that valuation first. And if the value comes in at or above what you're going to offer it, you're great, you're ready to go. If it comes in lower, you have a choice as to whether you want to proceed or not, right? So that's why we kind of think of this as a service. You could just go ahead and make a regular offer, or you could use the cash offer program. And I always tell people that, again, it's just a computer system giving the value back. So if the value comes in low based on that system, it doesn't mean you shouldn't offer on the house. It doesn't mean that you should change the amount you're offering, right? It just means that we, as a lender at doing this service, are not comfortable using the cash offer program to the value that you're looking to offer potentially. So that's something that people also always have questions about and run into as far as, is there a catch? Well, it's not really a catch because if it doesn't work out, you just don't use it in that case. So this is a little bit on the nitty-gritty details, but there's something about the appraisal value and the appraisal gap. Bobby, you want to get into that at all, or just people can talk through it while they're making offers?
Yeah, I mean, it can confuse a lot of people, but if the valuation comes in lower than expected and the borrower is not putting enough money down, etc., then the system will come back and say, okay, yeah, we'll back this with cash only if you put X number of extra dollars down as an appraisal gap deposit. So like, let's just say like you were planning on putting a total of $50,000 down into your whole transaction. What we're going to say in this case, if it's $10,000 extra, they're going to say, okay, we want your total deposit to be $60,000 instead of the 50. And that's to cover what we're anticipating as a lower appraised value to make sure that the loan to value still work. Now, if the human appraisal comes in and it comes in at the purchase price or, higher than what we expected, then, you don't have to put that extra money into the transaction, but you need to be willing to, should the appraisal come in where the computer said that it might. So,
yeah. And I think that's probably the biggest, not this whole appraisal gap piece, but just the down payment deposit in general. That's the biggest deciding factor on whether or not people are comfortable with this cash offer program, because that's what you're putting on the line. If you waive your mortgage contingency and you've given the seller your 5% down payment deposit, and for whatever reason you end up not being able to buy the house, like really unexpected job loss or something, because by the way, if HomeRUN Bank has to step in and actually fund the purchase of the property, you have 60 days to buy that property back. So, you still have an extra window to perform. But again, if for some reason you can't, that down payment deposit is on the line, and potentially costs that you've paid along the way too, right? Like if your attorney did work for you, if you had the inspection done, whatever else. So that's the biggest question that we run through with buyers is, how confident, how comfortable are you in potentially losing out on that 5% down payment deposit? Obviously, that's not the goal. The goal is everything goes through and it's fine. But that's the reality check moment. And there are plenty of people in this market right now who are like, yep, I just need a house. Let me have that service. And then some people who understandably just, it's not for them. And then they can go ahead and still have that fully underwritten pre-approval with the advantage. So we had a couple of questions come in from our live listeners today that I want to just get to before we wrap up. So Bob, maybe you can answer these. So can this work in Florida?
Yes, it'll work in any state that we're licensed in. Yep.
Awesome. And can we say those off the top of our head, or do we need to have our list? Mass, Connecticut.
Yeah. So
HomeRUN,
I'll just do HomeRUN Mortgage, right? So
yeah.
HomeRUN Mortgage is all of New England, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida.
Perfect. And then the other question was using the cash offer service. From when you make your offer, what actually triggers the $4.99 being charged?
So if you use the service to have your offer accepted, which means it's the addendums included with your offer, the buyer and the seller sign it, and then we sign it as part of the purchase and sales, then that $4.99 is triggered. If you're registered for the program, but you just make a traditional offer and the addendum isn't included, then there's no cashback guarantee to the seller. So there's no $4.99, charge.
So the $4.99 is if you use the program, if you've actually signed the participation agreement and the addendum to the offer where you're actually going ahead. And that's why the seller accepted the offer. Right. And you get to the closing. It's a part of the closing costs when you actually buy the house.
Correct.
So if you just register for it and then you end up making a regular offer and you don't use the cash program, you wouldn't be charged for the extra service.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Great questions. Very cool. Well, we usually try to keep this under 20 minutes. We went a little bit over today. But thank you everyone for listening. Any other questions, as always, you can reach out to myself or anyone on our team directly. You can throw questions in the chat as we're wrapping up here. And we also have our webinars that we've been doing pretty much weekly. Wednesdays at noon seems to be our pattern. So we've got a couple of webinars coming up. Please give us feedback, ask questions, let us know about any upcoming information you'd like to discuss. We are also very open to having outside guests come on with us. So anything you're interested in doing or chatting about, please let us know. And if you're watching this on the recording on either Facebook or YouTube, please give us a like, give us a share so that we can work on breaking the internet, because that is totally our goal here, in addition to helping people with their mortgages. Will anybody who was who has registered and watches live, or even just registers for the webinars, we'll send you the recording, and all of our contact information and everything will be there too. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and we hope to see you on future chats. See you later, Bob.
Thanks, Lindsay. Bye.